My entitled extended family is trying to blame me for my cousins blowing up some fireworks and as a result severely injuring their bodies. And now, even though I had nothing to do with any of their injuries, my family is expecting me to support them despite their bad attitudes and their dangerous activities. Here's what happened. Last year, my girlfriend and I decided to attend a family Christmas festivity despite more or less not really feeling like it, not to mention somewhat knowing better. And this is family on my side, by the way. It was my late mother who insisted we should go because the family had organized a big party. They would also provide dinner, and she figured that this would be a fun distraction for us. Also, because we never really went out for dinner that entire year, despite somewhat wanting to. Now, the event itself was more fun than I would have given it credit for. We had some fun interactions with some cousins and some of their spouses, and overall, we had a pretty good time. Well, that is until problems started during dinner. During said dinner, it got announced that there would be a huge firework display at the end of the party, all set up by 3 of my cousins, who I sometimes refer to as the firecrackers, because they are obsessed with fireworks, and I'm not really a fan, and I never have been. Now, don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with being passionate about something and sometimes taking things a bit too far. As long as you keep things reasonable and at the very least mind others, then it should be fine. But unfortunately, I don't think they do that. You see, my cousin's hobby even made the local news a few times. One of the headlines read the following: 100 kilograms of illegal fireworks were confiscated from a house. Firework packs were even found under the bed. Yeah, so quote, obviously, the authorities had no clue what they were talking about, and obviously things were under control. The regulations were at fault, most surely not them. Several years ago, I once raised the question, but what if a fire would break out? To which I was told, yeah, that never happens. So yeah, no point in arguing with that level of ignorance. So after the announcement, the conversation during dinner went a bit towards the fireworks. Conversations went back and forth, and suddenly one of the spouses asked my girlfriend if we ever did something with fireworks, to which my girlfriend said no, but we did have a bit of an in-game fireworks tradition. When asked what she meant, my girlfriend explained that during New Year's Eve, we used to hack our Minecraft game so that the in-game clock would sync with the real-world time, during which we'd set up some in-game fireworks and effects, which would then launch during 12 a.m. sharp. And for the record, my girlfriend and I are both in our 50s. The woman who asked her was intrigued and thought it was a fun thing to do, but it got quickly met with snide, condescending comments from her husband. Minecraft? What in the world? That's a kid's game. How old are you two? Who are you to compare our work to that garbage? To which his wife immediately retorted by saying, Josh, that's not what she said. But this really started the beginning of the end. And that's when another obviously drunk cousin chimed in and said the following: you guys are pathetic. That has nothing to do with fireworks. I mean, how old are you? Now, at this point, I kind of lost my cool. Also, well under the influence, I felt no hesitation in snapping back. I said to them, being well beyond the age where children mock others for their hobbies seems an achievement not everyone here managed to accomplish. Well, when I said that, that definitely riled them up. It got even funnier when Josh told us that hobbies or not, it was still stupid to be playing kids games considering our age, to which I told him that in this kids game, some people even managed to build fully working 8-bit computers, to which my girlfriend told me to hush and keep my cool. She realized that I was getting quite tipsy, and things eventually did cool down a bit after that. Well, that is until another relative who's about 16 years old suddenly yelled out, oh my gosh, you weren't kidding. Would you look at this? The guy had grabbed his phone and looked it up and came up with several YouTube videos. The funny thing here is that this guy was a grade A student and his parents were proud of him, and then he's the one to yell out in sheer admiration, which I did find a little bit funny. Now, for the record, the fireworks afterwards were fun to look at, no question about it, but the following loads of snide remarks afterwards made us decide to leave the party early. So anyways, fast forward, and 2 weeks ago, I got an email from an aunt of mine, which was odd because I never had much contact with that side of my family. Not before Christmas festivities last year, and most definitely not afterwards. As it turned out, my 2 cousins got into an accident, and it was quite severe. They were hospitalized, and my aunt said I needed to call her to talk about visiting hours so that we could set up the schedule. Well, I ignored said email because I had zero interest in visiting them. Also, because it's an easy 2-hour drive, but even with all that in mind, I did send out an email of my own to wish them well. Then, about a week ago, I got a phone call. It was my aunt, and they said, why haven't you called me? Anyways, we set up the schedule without you. You need to visit the hospital Wednesday, Thursday, and Saturday evening. We expect you there at 7 o'clock p.m. sharp. Don't complain about the time, that's your fault for not calling me. Well, I listened and I couldn't help but plain laugh out loud. I said to them, yeah, good luck with that. You can count me out though, which was met with several rude remarks. How dare I turn my back on my cousins who obviously needed my support? I said to her, do they? Or is it you who is now trying to force a break for yourself? Well, that definitely hit a nerve. As it turned out, my cousins were messing around with obviously illegal fireworks, and this is long before it's even legal to use that stuff, and it all literally blew up on them. I'm not going to go into much details for obvious reasons, but one is now missing a hand and the other is missing an eye. Those got lost in the process. And we're not talking about kids, by the way. We're talking about grown guys well into their 30s. 2 days ago, I got a new email, now telling me that the new schedule had been prepped and I'm expected to visit my cousin this upcoming Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday just to make up for the last week. This schedule was followed up by something I honestly never expected to see. They said the following: it's all your fault this happened, you know, because people like you never believed in their amazing capabilities and always needed to talk down on them. I then sent an email back with a picture of the universal salute, if you know what I mean, and I then blocked all of the emails involved entirely. Yeah, that family's super weird. They seriously are trying to take the cousin's fault, even though some of them lost some body parts in the process. Like, clearly their obsession with fireworks was really not okay, because for once they finally took it too far, and then suddenly they lost body parts. Like, seriously? Like, that is messed up. And it's really weird for everybody to be like, yeah, you gotta support your cousins in their activities. And also for the aunt to be like, this is your fault they blew themselves up. It's like, dude, what are you talking about? I am not responsible for that. So with all things considered, I do feel bad for your cousins, but at the same time, like, I don't blame you for distancing yourself, because the way they're acting is like completely backwards. And in no way is it your fault that those two cousins blew themselves up. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for wanting my wife to give up babysitting her niece for free and telling her sister that she needs to look for daycare come January? Here's what happened. So my wife quit teaching around 4 years ago for mental health reasons, and my wife has shown no real desire to get back into the workforce. It's not like we're struggling per se, but I would be lying if I said I did not miss the extra income from when my wife was working. About a year into her leave, her sister became pregnant, which did take up a large portion of her free time. So over the last 2 years, my wife has been babysitting her niece for around 12 hours a day, literally 3 days out of the week. She is stressed out, but does it because her sister claims she has no other option, and she cannot afford childcare. Even so, I don't think it's reasonable for my wife to do 12 hours a day for 3 days. So since my wife has not said anything for 2 years, I told my sister-in-law that come next year, she needs to go to daycare, because I am not going to let my wife do what amounts to slave labor. My sister-in-law told me that it is not my place to say what my wife could or could not do. Now, I get this point of view, and I would be lying if I said I wasn't slightly upset that my wife can work 36 hours a week, 3 days a week for free, but claims that she is not ready to return to the workforce. That is a separate issue, but the core issue here is that my sister-in-law is taking advantage of my wife to provide free childcare, and I feel that is not okay. In the past, my wife did talk about pay, but my wife does not like to chase people for money, so since she never reminds them, they claim to always forget. Either way, I told my sister-in-law this is where we stand. My wife is upset with me since she claims it's not my place to say what she can and cannot do, and that it is not my place to tell others how she is feeling. Now, for clarity's sake, I did talk this over with my wife many times, and she is burnt out from watching her niece, but in her view, her sister has no other option. She has also expressed how babysitting over these years, combined with teaching, has killed all desire she once had for having children of her own. Now, as mentioned, my wife has spoken about pay, but since she does not like to chase people for money, she never gets any kind of money. She feels she should not have to remind people of money, and they should want to pay someone to help them, especially when it comes to family. She also is afraid her sister will become unstable if she loses her family support, and I stepped in because I was sick of her being taken advantage of. I did not just sidestep her, I have tried many times over these years to put her foot down, but she loves her niece and does not want to see her suffer. My point is that she is destroying her mental health just like when she was teaching. I was the one who encouraged her to quit because it was destroying her. All she did was wake up, go to work, come home, and go to sleep. It was a struggle struggle to get her to eat sometimes. And the same thing is happening with her babysitting. Now, my wife is not doing this alone. When I get some time, I do take over the last 3 hours and I drop the kid off at her mother's when she gets off work. We also provide food and child supplies such as diapers and pull-ups, and my wife is also potty training my niece. She is more or less raising her niece 3 days out of the week. Now, in terms of solutions to this problem, I have spoken to my boss today to adjust my schedule, and while nothing can be done for January, come February, I will be allowed to work remotely for the month. During this time, I will be taking my wife on a long vacation. It's not perfect, but for US jobs, requesting 2 weeks vacation on such short notice is not ideal. Tonight, I'm going to take my wife out to explain everything. I got the idea from a friend to take her to a place that she could never turn down, and the theory is that during this time, my sister-in-law will be forced to figure something else out. Now, if it turns out my wife is unable to break away from her fear of guilt, then at that time, I will have to figure out what I'm going to do personally. As stated, yes, I do miss the income my wife brought in, as it did make things a bit easier. But that being said, the income at this point is the lowest priority. I can live with her not working if she is doing something that she truly enjoys. I'm willing to support her because I do love her, but I am not willing to support her sister, especially since she has done nothing to change her circumstances. I mean, if she was trying to change her situation by going to school or getting a better job, I would be annoyed, but I would understand my sister-in-law would need the help. But as it is, I hope to have some kind of breakthrough with my wife. Yeah, it really does seem like your wife is kind of like burning the candle from both ends, and it really does seem like the sister-in-law in this situation is taking advantage of your wife. Here's the thing, if she's taking care of that kid for 3 days out of the week, she absolutely should be paid for it. And even though your wife doesn't like confrontation when it comes to getting paid, she still deserves to get paid just like anybody else. And also, I don't think you're the jerk for stepping in and trying to help your wife out. With the additional explanation that the original poster provided, he made it abundantly clear that he has tried everything else with helping his wife. I mean, he is now even changing his schedule around just to work remotely to try and like help her out. So I think that was kind of like a last-ditched effort to be like, hey, this has got to stop, because his wife is clearly just going to let this keep going, and he really was, in my opinion, doing the best thing possible to try and help her out. So no, I don't think the original poster's a jerk, and hopefully all of this works out. And I hope your wife is able to see that yes, the sister-in-law in a pinch can find somebody else to help out. And hopefully that's enough of a breakthrough for her to realize that she doesn't have to do this no matter what. Am I the jerk for not depositing a Christmas check I received as a gift from my parents? Because right now, my dad is furious for not doing it right away, and he is even claiming that this has damaged our relationship. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 29-year-old female, and for Christmas, I received a very generous check from my parents. I wasn't expecting it, and they never spend this much on gifts, so it took me by surprise. Not to give exact numbers, but it was 4 digits. And I was very grateful, and I thanked them for their generous gift. Everything was great until the day after Christmas. My dad would come up to me multiple times and asked if I deposited the check. I told him that I would and that I could deposit it through my banking app. Well, the day goes on and I forget to deposit the check. The 27th comes along and I get home from work and my dad gets on me again and asked if I deposited the check. I told him no, and he seemed annoyed, and he once again told me that I need to deposit the check. Well, as you can probably guess, the day ends with me again forgetting to deposit it. Now it's today, the 28th, and my mom texted me while I'm at work asking if I deposited the check. I told her no, and she must have told my dad because he started angrily texting me. He said to me, "I asked you to do something and you didn't do it. I'm so upset with you, it's not even funny. This is a total disrespect of me and your mother. I requested that you deposit that check and you didn't. You know we did this because we love you, and you turn around and not deposit it like I asked. I'm so upset right now. Just give me the check and I'll deposit it into your account if you're that lazy. So ungrateful." Now, I was shocked when I read that while at work, and I'm not gonna lie, it hurt a lot. I spent most of my lunch break in tears trying to think of a response. I love my dad a lot, but I felt like his anger was out of line and needlessly malicious. Unfortunately, while my dad is loving most of the time, he does have moments of anger just like this. He never gets physical or anything like that, but it is very loud. Eventually, I texted him back and I said the following: "Hi Dad, I'm sorry that this has made you upset. It's not that I'm ungrateful, I guess I just don't understand why this needs to be deposited right away, especially since it hasn't even been a week since I received your very generous gift. I love you very much and I don't want this to damage our relationship. So I think it's no longer appropriate for me to accept this check. I'll give you the check back when I get home. Now, I thought that this was the best and most mature way to reply. Maybe he'll calm down or something like that, right? Well, no, unfortunately, it only gets worse. He replied back by saying the following: well, when I tell you to do something, I want it done. When your mom asks you to do something, you do it. Now, I want you to deposit that check today or I will disconnect your internet. I asked for the simplest thing and you can't even give me that. I have my reasons for wanting the check cashed. You should honor my wish. As far as I'm concerned, this has damaged our relationship. Now, I've since deposited the check like he asked, but I'm really confused here. Am I really in the wrong or is he blowing this out of proportion? What should I do? So in my opinion, it kind of seems like everybody sucks in this scenario. For starters, there's no excuse for the original poster not depositing the check. Like literally, you have the mobile app. You could have taken care of that literally in seconds. Like that is not that hard. Like the moment he asked you about this on Christmas, you could have pulled your phone out and the check and said, oops, my bad, let me deposit it real quick. And then you could have gotten it done right then and there. But you kept kicking this can down the road for like no reason, and now your dad's freaking out on you. Now, it sounds like they gave you a couple $1,000s, and I don't know about you, but I would not want a check like that sitting in limbo and not deposited already. But on the flip side, the way your dad is acting is completely insane. I can understand him being upset and being like, listen, you gotta deposit the check, like get this done. He most likely wants that deposited before the end of the year, probably for like tax purposes or something like that. But for him to seriously say, oh, this damaged our relationship, like that is just straight up weird. Also, for him to give you an ultimatum and be like, ooh, if you don't deposit it, I'm gonna cut off your internet. Which also, as a side note, the original poster lives with their parents. So to make that kind of comment is like, whoa, wait a second, that is definitely inappropriate. And I know if I was living with my parents and they made those kind of like veiled threats, I would probably start looking for another place to live almost immediately. Like that was just completely uncalled for, and it's like a really weird punishment to give to your 29-year-old daughter. So hopefully you depositing this check somehow like fixes this scenario, because yes, you really should have deposited that like right away, but also your dad's reaction is completely uncalled for. My girlfriend is cheating on me right now in this very minute, and after trying to have some kind of conversation with her, I'm now convinced that I've lost my girlfriend and I now seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. My girlfriend of about 2 years has been with me since we first met at a party at university. My girlfriend is 22 and I am 24 years old. Just 1 week after meeting her, she already moved in with me. It was love at first sight. Around a year ago, we moved into a new apartment, which I couldn't afford by myself, and we lived there pretty happily ever since. Skip to last Monday on Christmas, and we were at her father's place with all of her family. Things were fine until we drove home. She suddenly told me that she had had enough of me being mean to her. Now, the example that she gave me was when I accidentally walked into her laptop's charging table, which is this white cord, and it was stretched over a white carpet in a dimly lit room. Now, I did not apologize for ripping it out of her laptop, but instead accused her of why she would even place a cable like that in the first place. But after a few minutes, I did end up apologizing. She also told me that she does not want to stop my dreams and aspirations. For reference, I would like to move to another country after I'm done with university, but she does not want to do that. She then told me that she wants a break from our relationship. Well, I drove home and I told her that being with her is my biggest goal in life, and that I'm sorry for having been mean to her, and that I am willing to change, but she still wanted the break. That night, we still slept in the same bed, but I cried myself to sleep. Now, I really don't think that I've been mean to her. I think the main problem is that around 1 year ago, I got a job at university at cancer research. We are very successful at this, and we try to use a novel, highly successful approach. Because my father, who is my best friend, has cancer, I think I spent too much time on work and not enough time with her. For the last few months, I sometimes went to university at around 8 o'clock in the morning and only came back at around 11 o'clock p.m. for a week or so. She was alone at our home and probably very lonely. Anyways, Tuesday, I wanted to visit my father, but my girlfriend told me that she wanted to visit her mother. Her mother is on the way to my father, so I offered to give her a ride there, but she declined. She did not come home that night and told me that she would like to sleep at her mother's place. The next day, she told me that she may not come home that night as well. I told her that's fine and she can stay at her mom's place for as long as she likes. She did actually come home though, and we watched a movie together, but she was distracted by her phone, what she was looking at, and it was making her giggle from time to time. In fact, only a few minutes ago, I found out that she did in fact not sleep at her mother's place, but instead went to some guy she knows from university. That night we went to bed together, and I tried to approach her her, but she distanced herself from me, so I only caressed her until she fell asleep. Well, we're now at today. In the morning, I baked fresh buns just for her, but she told me she has a meeting with her sister and only took a few with her and then left. I cleaned the house to make her feel happy when she would come back home, but at around 11 o'clock p.m., I was concerned and I called her mother, asking if my girlfriend is still at her place because she would not answer me. Her mother told me that she has not been at her place since we both left from there. She said that maybe he's at some guy's place by the name of Logan. Logan is not his real name, because Logan and my girlfriend drank coffee together a few weeks ago, and she thought that I knew about that. Just after the call, my girlfriend actually came home. I asked her who Logan is, and she told me that she actually slept at his place last Monday. She only packed a brush and some other things, and then wanted to leave again. I asked her where she wanted to go now, and if they had spent quality time together, if you know what I mean, and she told me no, and that she would go to her father's place now. I told her though, if she leaves, then it's completely over. And you know what? I still remember the blank look in her eyes. She did not care at all. It felt like all we have ever been through together suddenly did not matter to her. She just took her stuff and left. A minute later, I wanted to run after her, but she was already gone. I just don't know what to do now. I really love her a lot. I cannot believe that this happened. I feel like my entire world has fallen apart. What should I do when she inadvertently comes back? We share an apartment together after all, and most of the stuff here is hers. I neglected all my friends to only be with her. I feel like this is all my fault because I did not give her enough affection. I already told her that I will reduce my workload because I just finished my research, but even then, I don't know if I could ever trust her again. What should I do? Okay, first and foremost, you need to understand that this is not your fault. You did not cause her to cheat on you. That's crazy in my opinion, and seriously, I don't think there's a good enough excuse for that. And yes, I do think that what she's doing is cheating. Even though on Christmas Day, she's like, I think we should take a break. I'm kind of convinced based on her actions that she was talking to Logan well before she wanted to have a break. And by the way, she's probably only making up excuses as to why she wants a break, so she can try and have some kind of like alibi as to why she broke up with you, but also so she can feel less guilty about cheating on you. Like, I really don't think there's anything you could have done more to prevent her from cheating. Like, that's a very clear line in the sand of like, okay, let's not do that. But it seems like she broke that cord off a long time ago, and I know if I was in your shoes, I would just struggle to ever trust her ever again. So I'm really sorry that you're dealing with this. This seriously sounds awful, because her actions are just super sketchy, and you truly did not deserve this in the slightest. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you want some chill music to put on in the background, check out Easy Mode. If you like Am I the Jerk, subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.